Now let's go behind the rock screen.
You're welcome to come on in. We'll bring out the moonshine, start telling lies and calling up the women. But no talk about racing. Come on.
Hey everybody, this is Josh with the Dirt Court Gestures podcast. Co-host Tim is on deck with us, and driver of the W20 410 sprint car from Benton Ridge, Ohio, Greg Wilson hops on. Mr. Wilson, thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me, and thanks for what you do for the sport. I'm not really good with social media, but I know all the podcasts and all the different things that people do with the social media is just, it's amazing for the sport, and the interaction. So thank you for having me.
Appreciate you coming on. So first question, easy question. Give us some of your background if people don't know. How did you get into racing?
Pretty simple, really. My dad had owned cars, stock cars when I was a little kid, and before I was born, my uncle started driving for him, and then he had some drivers, and I grew up obviously going to the races from that. As I got older, we got into Go-Karts. I think I was 3 or 4 or 5, and obviously, like a lot of racers, progressed. And but I kind of always knew that I was a sprint car guy. I laugh. I was telling somebody the other day that they have pictures of me when I was, I don't know how old, little, dumping flower pots on the floor, and my dad and his buddy were watching me, and they were letting me do whatever, and I had flower pots dumped all over the floor, and I was racing race cars around in a circle. And when you grow up watching your Uncle Bob Hampshire's car with Jack Honsfield and Hewitt and legends drive, and that's all you've ever wanted to do. I've been very fortunate and blessed to get to do exactly that. But that's how I guess I started and wanted to do it.
So you went from karts and then up into the sprint car ranks?
Yeah. We, my family, we sold all of our go-kart stuff and bought a car, and I've been racing for so long. My first race cars, you still had to have, when you started 305, or it might have been 305 360, really it's just 305s. The original deal was you had to have manual steerings. They didn't even have power steerings, and so that was our initial stepping into the sport. And my family, they're blue collar workers. My dad drove semi truck. My stepmother worked in a factory, and my mom has worked in factories, and now she's been in a machine shop for years. So blue collar workers. So we didn't come from a lot of money. We started with a van and a flatbed trailer, which a lot of people started that way in when 70s, 80s, and then I was late 90s. But like I said, I was fortunate, and I feel like that the one thing that that my family instilled in me was work ethic. And I feel like that you can say a lot of things about me if you know me or don't know me, but the one thing you're definitely not going to say is that I'm lazy. And I feel like that work ethic and surrounding myself with being surrounded with wonderful people and people that were way smarter than me and had as much work ethics helped get me where I'm at today.
Fast forwarding to this season, 2025 season, last weekend you were hard charger, and I believe you had a top 5 with the All-Stars. So how's 2025 going for you?
We ended up, I think, 7th or 8th, but yeah, we ended up hard charger on Friday night. It's been a roller coaster. We had some things change. One of our main sponsors, Hercules Tires, had to back out. They have some business issues that they're dealing with, and we've kept that. I've been fortunate to kind of keep a little bit of a relationship with, and we have Hercules Tires on our tow rig, and we're involved with product stuff. But for the time being, we had to change it up, and that hurt our team a little bit. Plugging my sponsors a little bit. Fortunately, longtime sponsor Ohio Logistics and DNC Hydraulics, they stuck with us, and been able to maintain what they've done for us, and then we were grateful and thankful enough that and proud to have Miller Customs come on, which Bob and Heath Miller and their family has had race cars throughout the years. Heath used to race. Heath and I went to junior high school together, and it was pretty cool how that worked out. My daughters now go to the same high school where his boy goes, and his kids went, and we were at a football game on a Friday night, and he walked up and we were talking a little bit, and he says, "Hey, I'd like to have my name on your car next year." And little did he know that we were kind of in a world of crap with losing Hercules, and they come on to help us quite a little bit, and anybody listening, I mean, we're like any race team, we're definitely strapped right now, and if anybody's wanting to be on the car for the King's Royal or any other time, get in contact with me through social media. Plugging all that, the season's been up and down. When we went into the winter last year, we knew that was happening. Luckily, with where they were at and what they were doing, I knew that it wasn't going to put me out of business, but I knew I was going to have to adapt and adjust. The problem was we had things outside of racing in life that we kind of had to get straightened out for the future, so some of these things wouldn't affect us so much. And we worked all winter on some houses and some things like that, trying to get our life in order outside of racing. And that's really, as you talk to any racer, the races are won in the shop in the wintertime, and it's absolutely put a hurting on my program. And we're trying to play catch up in the middle of the year, and I don't know if we will get caught up, but I feel like we're headed the right way. It's just really hard to do when you're kind of a one-man band, and I still work on my motor some to save money and do things to make money outside of, well, it's really affiliated with racing, but outside of what we normally do. So things are just really busy. I'm just really thankful to have the people involved that we have involved, and still get to do what I get to do, and do it with my girls. My girls, most of my crew. Nick Doherty has been helping me for now 2 years, but he lives over in PA and he drives everywhere, and he comes to the track and helps us, and he's been wonderful for me and my wife and my girls. It's like any race. I mean, racing's a struggle no matter how big a team you got. I don't care if you're racing go-karts or racing NASCAR. I mean, surrounding yourself with people, keeping them involved, whether it's on a sponsorship front or help in the pits or at the shop. It's a lot of work and a lot of time, and you really got to love it to be involved.
Yeah, and you kind of segued into my next question, and I wonder, heading to Eldora next week for the King's Royal, does it make you feel a little bit better? You said you're feeling good about the way things are heading, but now you're going to go to Eldora next week for the race that we're all of us, any of us that grew up in Ohio, we've all been waiting for. So does that add a little bit more fuel to the fire?
Well, I don't know if it adds fuel to the fire. But when you talk about the King's Royal, I mean, I'm like Tim, I get emotional. I mean, I can remember when I really wanted to know that. I guess I really, really, truly knew when I was however old I was, 7, 8, 9. For some reason we went to the King's Royal, and Hod was my favorite driver, and Hod won the King's Royal, and I remember it was coming down to the last lap, and somebody was closing, and I mean, I'd have to go back through the years to actually look now. I mean, I'm getting older, I forget shit, right? So, but it was awesome, and I was like, man, dude, he's the king, right? Like, he's the king. Like, I want to sit in that chair. Like, and I don't know if that'll ever happen, but to be involved with something that's so special, and to be able to race in the King's Royal, and to have some good runs that I've had, and still striving, probably more towards the end of my career, still striving to win the King's Royal, and to be a part of it and be competitive. I mean, there's nothing that gets me more fired up and in tune with myself. I mean, I guess there's probably times throughout the race season I wish I could be that focused and that in tune, but just something still lights that fire when it comes to Eldora. Every time I go there, I mean, Eldora is just such a special place. I mean, it's a special place to me and to a lot of people. And if you live in the state of Ohio and you like sprint car racing and you don't like Eldora, there's something wrong with you.
So we're really going to try to dive into the King's Royal here. We've got some questions prepared. We also got some questions that some fans have asked us to ask you. So the first one I've got for you is your first Kings Royal that you made was in 2005, if I believe. You have 11 Kings Royal feature appearances. What kind of mindset do you have during that week?
Well, it's hard because I used to get so wound up, I literally would get sick. As I got, as you start, when I was younger, when I would even race with guys that were my heroes, like I'd get myself so worked up because I wanted to be competitive. But I mean, I was racing with my heroes. Like, not many people in life get to say that. Like, and so like when I was younger, I would get myself completely worked up, and probably even if I did okay at the Kings Royal, I'd probably psyched myself out half the time, right? Because I didn't know if I even deserved to be there. But as I got older and got more competitive and want the desire to win it, obviously changes. And, I guess I felt like I've been fast enough a few times that I feel like that the saying goes, sometimes you got to lose them before you can win them. And I feel like that we've been close enough a couple times that we were in the top 5 and like knocking on the door and up racing for the lead a little bit. Like, I still feel like I can do that. Now with the way the formats and everything go, the Eldora, the Kings Royal format's still freaking awesome. Some people complain about it. All the racers that qualify well don't necessarily like it. The guys that like me that don't time well love it because you still have a chance, and like it mixes it up. And every year you'll notice a few starters that you're kind of surprise starters, and it's because of the format. And I like that. Some people don't. I understand. So really look forward to Saturday. I'm not notoriously a great qualifier. Once in a while I can lay down a really good lap. We all know that that's huge in what we do these days. And even still at the Kings Royal, there's so many cars that have been going the last few years that it's still very, very important to qualify well. So I kind of break the night down a little bit and try to be like, okay, if I can just get here, and then if we can get to that point, then even if we don't, even if we're not in the front row or the front 2 rows, if I start here, what am I going to do on the first lap in the heat race to try to get myself in position? Or if I'm further back, how am I going to get myself in position to be far enough up in the B main to, you got to break it down and analyze it but I get so much going on because I still work on my car. Like it's hard to get too worked up or too focused on anything because, I might have to help dump fuel in or reset the fuel settings or something. And I wish it really wasn't that way. I really enjoyed when I, back a few years ago there, when I drove for Andy Potter and Joe Sealing on the 97 car. That was the first time in a while that I kind of got a break and be a driver. And, I would love to get in the right opportunity, at least for Kings Royal weekend with the right people, 1 or 2 times before I quit. But I don't know if that'll happen. And I still feel like that, I don't know what this year will bring. We're working on our motor program. That's probably our biggest downfall right now. And, especially for there. But we're going to go down there with, we're going to be swinging for the fences. And, man, if the good Lord's willing, I'd give anything to sit on that crown, sit up there wearing that crown with my wife and my kids right beside me. There'd be nothing like it. And I'd probably do it. Yeah.
My ass will be down there on that throne with you.
I know it will be. I'd probably do a mic drop right then. It probably would never get any better than that. And that would probably be one of the most badass mic drops you've ever seen in your life.
Well, you did touch on it a little bit, Greg. You touched on the format. We were going to get into that actually. So let's get into it a little bit more. Like you said, you like it. I love it. Do you feel like it gives the quote-unquote underdog, the lower budget teams, more of a chance? And kind of the way, I don't know if you agree with this, but kind of the way I see it is it gives you the lower budget teams a chance to make the race, but you still have the biggest names in the world, the best teams, the best race car guys, they're still winning the Kings Royal. So
I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but everything that you're saying, I 100% agree with. As racers, whether you're a low budget team or not, you know, I've learned that you try not to look around. And Bob Hampshire instilled this in me pretty good too. I mean, like, he's probably the one that taught me, like, you can't always look around at who's got what and whatever. When you get there, when you roll through the gate, you got to have some belief that you got a shot to win. No matter how big your truck and trailer is, no matter how many engines you got in the trailer, or you really probably shouldn't go anyway. And I say that along with, that's why I like the format, because I feel like that, you know, like I said, it allows different guys to get into the race that may not have a chance at making it if it was straight up qualifying. And let's face it, I mean, over the past 10 years, or unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, generations change, things change, it always has. You know, it changed from the 70s, it changed to the 80s, it changed, so on and so forth. That's the nature of what we do. There's a lot more technology in the sport now than what it was 10 years ago. And with that being said, it's become more money driven. I mean, like, anybody that thinks differently is kidding themselves. You know, I know I'm a team owner. When I had better funding, it was easier to do things and accomplish things. It becomes harder when you have less of a budget, because, like, right now, like, if I could just take and drop my engines off at Paul Kistler's and pay the bill, it would be a lot easier for me to write my motor program really, really quick. And I'm not whining by no means. It's just facts. I mean, we're dealing with facts. And the facts are that a guy like me, I'm going to use myself as an example, and speaking from experience, I tear down my own engines so I can save some money. I try to go up there, and luckily he allows me to do that and help a little bit. To most engine shops won't even do that. I mean, luckily I've been around long enough and have earned a tiny little bit of respect, and in shops like that they trust that when I come there I can do those things and not make them look completely bad either, right? But
Well, not to interrupt you real quick, but like you've been working on motors and building motors for how long?
well, I started.
Go ahead and tell everybody how long you've been doing that stuff.
Well, I was, when I was I think 15 years old, I went to work at my uncle Bob Hampshire's engine shop, which he built engines for a lot of people. I started by tearing down engines and cleaning parts, and then pretty soon I was, you know, helping dyno, and then he taught me how to hone cylinder blocks or home blocks and work on cylinder heads, and I would do the milling and some of the valve jobs. I really did a lot of fuel systems for a lot of other engine builders back in the day. And I mean, so that really, I tell everybody, like, the engine side is probably really what I would feel like if when I'm done racing, I could see myself being involved somehow at some engine shop to some level, or going to the track or something, because I really enjoy that. Like, I really do. I mean, I don't want to be in an engine shop when I'm done 7 days a week like I am my race shop right now, but I would love to be a part of something like that. That's the side of the racing that I'm probably better at and I do enjoy. You know, but yeah, so a long time, Tim, a long time.
Yeah. I just wanted to prove the point that, like, where you came from, the knowledge that you have, like, you're not a guy that just, well, my motor's lapped out, I got to get it up to Paul or whoever and get it taken care of. Like you said, you're doing a lot of this stuff yourself to save money. Your family's involved to help save money. You guys are like, I text you and you're like, yeah, me and the girls are tearing the motor apart. Like, people need to see that side of you, I think.
Well, you know, I am proud of that. I am proud that I've tried to make my home life I've tried to include my wife and kids. There's, you know, I guess going back, I'll never forget, Hamp and I were coming home from a race one night, and we were coming, I still remember a couple things happened. We'd stopped. He used to talk about him and Hewitt stopping at little places, like on the way home. Like if they raced Friday and Saturday and they were at a USAC weekend or an All-Star weekend or whatever, if there was a local show, they would stop and try to make money because they race for a living. And I mean, Bob actually was racing for a living too. And so we kind of did that a little bit when I drove for Bob, even though things were starting to get a little more expensive. We stopped at Sportsman Speedway, Knox, Pennsylvania, and we'd won a little show on the way home from being out in Eastern PA for All-Star stuff. And we were, obviously you're happy, you run good, and you know, just like every race team at any level. Like, you run good, hell, it's fun, man. So we're talking, we're chatting all the way home, and we're cruising through Akron, and this guy goes by pulling wheelies on a motorcycle, and I'm just adding to the story, right? But long story short, we get back into town, into Findlay, and we had to come around Cooper Tire, which is a huge tire manufacturing company. Headquarters were here for years, and employs a lot of people here in town. Well, when Bob got back from the military, his father had worked there, and we were driving by that night, and the third shift people were coming out for break, or second shift was getting off, whatever it was. But Bob says, man, what an idiot am I? He says, all my buddies have saved their money and they're retiring. And he's like, man, as I get older, I don't know if that was very smart to just leave there and go racing and start my own shop. And I don't know, me being younger and having an absolute shitload of respect and love for that man, I looked at him and I said, well, yeah, but you know, do you have any regrets? Because I always remember my grandparents telling me, like, whatever you do in life, my grandmother especially, you know, try not to have any regrets. Well, we all have regrets, right? Like, we all make mistakes and so on and so forth, but you try to live every day and not have too many of them, or at least enjoy life. And that's what I was getting at. So I asked him, and he looks at me and he says, you know, no. He says, hell, I've been all over the country. I've got to hang out with awesome people. I've raced race cars, which is exactly what I love to do. I've got to have people like Hewitt, and now, you know, just on and on. And Bob's not normally that way. He normally don't kind of get, and he looked at me at the end and he says, you know, the only thing that I would have changed is, he says, I'd have spent a little more time with your Aunt June. And he says, but I definitely would have spent more time with my daughter. He said, she grew up pretty fast, and I was out on the road, and I wasn't always a part of Tracy's life because of what I did. And he says, I'd change that. So it stuck with me. And you know, that, as far as the racing goes, it stuck with me. And I'm like, man, if my wife will allow it, you know, I love my wife, and she's been right there ever since she's met me. She knew nothing about racing, and she's right there by my side every single day. And we got each other's back. And when we had them girls, I wasn't sure what that was going to do, but, you know, she's allowed that and been right by my side. And these girls love racing. And, I mean, they're both hounding me to get them in a 305 or something. And that's probably going to happen pretty soon. I got a really good friend out in Pennsylvania that has a Race Saver car. And, you know, I tell him Uncle Bobby's got on us the last time we were out there, and he said, you know, you get them out here and we'll take them down to BAPS and let them run it around, and we'll see, you know, if they scare themselves, they don't want to do it. But, you know, that part I'm proud of. I try to be humble as best you can, but it makes me smile, and I don't mind talking about my wife and kids being involved. I mean, I think that's what makes our sport too. I mean, we got a lot of friends with kids involved, you know, whether they're at the races or racing now or whatever. And, it's pretty special. I mean, I probably take it for granted sometimes, but, you know, when I sit back and reflect when I'm at home mowing my yard, or we get to eat supper and I'm sitting there drinking a cold beer, I'm thinking, man, I'm a pretty damn lucky guy, you know, and I mean that. I mean, that's not me just blowing smoke. I mean, if you've been around me, I think you know that, but I love my family.
That's awesome. You guys get to, you know, you get to spend a lot more time together than most, really, right? So it's a tough life that you're living. But you're racing. You're with your family, and so it offsets that difficulty of traveling a lot.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's a balancing act. I mean, you know, just like anybody's family, like, you know, people that work a 9 to 5 and their kids get involved in stuff. And now our daughters both play basketball, and Livy's playing volleyball as well. And, you know, we encourage, like, I encourage them. I mean, I tell them, I'm like, I didn't miss much of high school. When I got out of there, I was going to do exactly what I wanted to do. And I knew it. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. But so I didn't really feel like that I missed a lot when I was not going to dances or stuff like that. But I tell them, I'm like, you only get those 4 years of high school one time. And there was a lot of things that I did enjoy while I was there, especially in the wintertime. And I said, but I wish I would have played one sport when I was in high school, at least for a year, to say that I did it. And I never went to a prom. And Lily got to go to a prom this year and as a sophomore, and she has no idea how much I lived that through her, even though I didn't get to go to the dance or anything else, right? But like just to see her happy and to you know, to see her dressed up, and the boy that took her was a great guy, and like it just made me proud, but it made me feel like, you know, I get to live a little bit through my kids now, and you know, and I try to encourage them, hey, make sure that you at least take the time. I know we race a lot, and I try my best to be at everything. I try to make every sporting event, every choir thing. So I'm at the shop late, but you know, I feel like I need to be there for them as much as they are for me.
That's all.
Well, real quick, there's not many things you miss racing for on the weekend, and when I saw the post that you stayed home for her prom, that was cool. And my second thought was, how intimidating this poor kid's going to be walking up to take Greg's daughter, because Greg can be intimidating. Don't let him fool you. Nicest guy in the world. I thought, oh, man, this poor kid, I hope Greg treats him all right.
I probably used him up for about 5 minutes. But it was more when like, I'm very old school. I mean, I made him, I told her, I said, there is no way in hell you're going with a kid to prom or anywhere that I haven't met. And this was he literally asked her like 2 days before prom. Like, it was a deal where they were friends. He wasn't going to go at all. Well, they all had mutual friends, blah, blah, blah. Well, they all wanted the whole crew to go. Well, her and this kid have been buddies the whole school year, right? And he's a good kid. Like, I haven't been around him because I'm at my shop 9 to freaking whenever at night, right? So, long and the short of it, I said, well, you ain't going. Well, he's like, he's got to get the tickets tomorrow. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. You tell that kid if he wants to ask my daughter, he's going to have to come over. It was 9:30 at night. I'll be a son of a gun. He didn't show up he showed up at my house at 10 o'clock. I'm sitting on the couch watching hockey of all things. And a fight breaks out on hockey. And I'm thinking, oh, this is perfect. I stood up and shook his hand. I said, you see what's going on there? I looked at TV. I said, I don't know if you're a hockey fan, but you see what's going on right there? I said, you're going to look a lot worse than that guy if you hurt my daughter. You understand that? And his face got all blank, and I shook his hand. I started laughing. I said, I'm just messing with you. I said, you just make sure that the night you take her out, and you treat her like I want my daughter to be treated, and you bring her home safe. And he was a gentleman. When I see him at school functions and around now, him and his buddies all come over to see me, and I thoroughly enjoy that. Like, I like having him around. I got 3 women in the house. I am outnumbered. I like having.
Yeah.
I don't want him to come over and want to date my daughters, but damn, I don't mind having some.
Come over and hang out with Dad.
Yeah, hell, come over. Shoot.
Oh, that's good.
There's so much women stuff that goes on around here. I need some guy stuff. Get your ass over here. But yeah, having kids. I mean, I'm sure it's changed me. It's probably changed me in every aspect of my life, including racing at times. But you know, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And like I said, back into what we're really talking about is the racing of it. You know. Even going back to the Kings Royal, they literally know the week before that I get more wound up, and they know how much it means, and they know how special this race means to me. And I mean, they've been in here this week, literally helping me go through everything. And I mean, just racing's pretty damn cool, especially with your family.
You helped steer the ship back on course, Mr. Wilson. So you've had a couple top 5s in the Kings Royal starts that you've made. Was there any one thing that you learned early on in your Kings Royal career that helped you obtain those top 5s?
I don't know if it was necessarily the Kings Royal itself, but I feel like I've had a pretty good career at Eldora, as a whole. You know, obviously it was a place that I always dreamed about. So probably from the time that I ever went there in a 305 or 360 back in the day, even the non-wing races that we ran there taught me things. I mean, I feel like it's a unique place. I feel like, especially with the wing sprint car, you have to drive it a certain way. You have to be aware of things that may not affect you at other places. and you got to keep all that stuff in mind. And it suits my style real well too. I mean, I come from go-karts. My dad always preached to me, keep your foot down on the right and don't move your elbows in a go-kart. That's the only way you're going to be fast. Well, it kind of carried over to a sprint car. Probably not always a good habit to have, right? But it's a habit I have. And I drive a car really straight. And Eldora makes me look good sometimes because of that, I guess. Yeah, I think early on, I don't know if it's necessarily King's Royal runs, other than the nerves what that race brings to me, and hopefully every driver that ever straps in, even the legends of the sport that have won it. I'm sure that when they strapped in to win to race to stand on the front stretch at the King's Royal, that it brought a little different butterfly to them. Probably no different than the Knoxville Nationals. There's certain crown jewel races where if you do what we do and drive sprint cars for a living or at any level, you should have dreams and aspirations of winning the Kings Royal or Knoxville Nationals or the National Open or the Gold Cup in California. At least it made me nervous, and maybe early on it helped me calm my nerves later. But I feel like just the laps and the want to and the desire to do good at Eldora and having great people around me to coach me, to tell me things. I mean, I remember a good friend of mine, a car owner, Roger McLean. He used to race back in the day, and he was a great coach for me coming up. People that you guys wouldn't even recognize the names. Guys, I raced with a guy named Dave Rice, and Dave taught me how to kind of stay calm in a car, and he don't even realize that he did it. I mean, we joke about it today, but there was things that people that were really good racers that maybe never got a shot to even race at the Kings Royal or at Eldora that helped me be better in positions in races like that. And I don't know if that's a good explanation, but that's how I truly feel.
Yeah.
So with the Kings Royal, you've been – the reason I kind of wanted Josh to talk to you is because your experience at the Royal, your experience at Eldora. What is your personal most memorable moment, driver or fan? You touched on watching Hod win it. So it could be that, or is it one of the times you've been there? What's your favorite memory of the Kings Royal?
Oh, man, I got a lot of them. Man, I have a lot of them. Boy, I don't even know where I would start. Just some of that one with Hod when I was a kid, I'll never forget that one. That was pretty special. Probably the last time we ran really well there, I don't even know what year it was, but that was pretty special because we won our heat race and we started up front and we literally battled there all along. And when we got done at the end of the night and everybody had left, we were one of the last cars in the pits. And I remember looking around looking up at the sky and thinking, man, dreams and I'm a pretty spiritual guy, so I've been pretty blessed to be standing here at Eldora, getting to do exactly what I always dreamed of doing, and I just ran top 5 at the Kings Royal with some of the best sprint car drivers in the world and of all time. Like that was special to me. Like I said, Eldora holds a lot of special deals, but if we're strictly talking the Kings Royal, probably those two things are probably the most memorable to me. I know I watched some really, really awesome Kings Royals as a kid growing up, and outside of the race car, I mean, one of the most fun times I ever had is I drove for Don and Harold Nichols, and we didn't race the Kings Royal. I don't remember why I didn't go. Either wasn't driving for Hamp yet, and the team that I was driving for really didn't have the equipment to go to the Kings Royal. So we ran 360s at Lima on Friday, and they were all going down there. Their whole family, if you don't know the Nickel brothers, their family's tight. And I mean, when I say they're a family, there's 50 to 100 of them. And if you're in, you're in. Well, I was very fortunate that I was in. And we ran Friday, and I don't remember if we won at Lima or not, but they're like, you need to come down. I'm like, I'm staying away from there. I want to race so bad. I'm not going to go. Well, I went down there, and we proceeded to sit up in turn 4, wherever they sat with their whole family. And all I remember was the race was pretty good early. I don't remember much because I was starting to pout. and because I wasn't racing and I wasn't really enjoying myself too much, and a bottle of Goldschlager went by, and I'm like, hey, whoa, stop. And the next morning when I woke up in my pickup truck out in front of all the campers, and it was 7 in the morning and I wasn't feeling too hot, I made that painful drive home. But I still laugh about it to this day. It's probably some of the most fun I had with some of the most fun people and most loyal family people that you could ever meet in your life. And the Nichols brothers and their family are just they're one of a kind, and they're great people. That was a memory outside of the race car that it meant a lot. It meant a lot.
Well, a lot of us can relate to memories similar to your event with the Goldschlager, but you've touched on it, and I think everybody knows by now how family oriented you are. What is it like to experience your career with your wife and daughters by your side?
Well, obviously, I actually was just teasing my daughters because my father-in-law, he's having some health issues, and he's been back watching YouTube videos, which I'm not a big, I don't mess with that stuff a lot, right? So he's telling me, well, I just watched the race from here, and I'm just like, man, you did this and you did that. And I'm like, well, I didn't me and Kinsey and I have only been together for 17 of my 33 years of racing, right? So like a lot of the crazy stuff and things that, probably the most of my success really came before her, and then a lot with her without the girls, and then the girls were too little to remember some of the stuff. But now we've still won races and things like that. But my career and a lot of my family members are involved in racing, whether it's working on cars. I mean, Tim and I, he's involved with Ricky Peterson, which is a cousin of mine, and how that kind of initiated was because of Tim. Part of it, I feel like, was because Tim and I were friends, and Tim made a phone call to me, and he says, hey, I'm going to get involved. What do you think about this? And what I want to help a young guy. What do you think about me doing this? And I'm like, hey, dude, that's family. Like, yeah. But I tell you all that because when I was younger, me and my dad were closer than we are now. But like my whole family was involved, and then cousins and so on and so forth. And life changes. They got real jobs, and they had families, and I went a different direction. I was off racing all over the country and didn't make it to family events. And, I don't know if it's got me in trouble now or not, but irregardless, so things change. So it went from all of that throughout the years. And, fortunately I get to see my cousins a lot at the racetrack. Like I said, Ricky races, my cousin Kent Karhoff and his family take care and maintain Casey Jezerak's car for Ed Neumeister. My other cousin Jason, that helped me a lot through my career, he helps on that car now. So we have a lot of, our family was brought up in racing, and my aunt and uncles all follow, and they're either going to the races to see other cousins, or they're coming and they'll watch me, and they come down to everybody's trailers and still visit. And I'm probably not as close as I used to be with everybody, but I have my wife and my kids, and we still travel quite a bit. We still go, like last weekend we were out in PA racing in New York, and we don't really stay close to home very much, and so that makes that hard. But having my wife and kids involved, I never could have imagined that I would have enjoyed it as much as I do. I really don't have words for it. I get choked up thinking about it because, even when I was younger, I wanted to have kids, and to have two healthy kids and have them love racing as much as I do, it's pretty special. Yeah, it's pretty special.
All right, so let's get into something. You and I have talked about this privately. But I think you're fine discussing this. What's your opinion on High Limit, World of Outlaws, kind of what's going on? Two very competitive national touring series. We've never really seen this before. Other people have tried it. It just has not worked. The All-Stars have done it, but not to the level of High Limit has come on. So kind of what are your thoughts on all of it? Wide open, the business side, the driver's side, the team owner's side. What do you think?
Well, obviously a little careful how I say it, but I'm not afraid to say any of it. I just want to think it through a minute. One, obviously when I was a kid growing up, I wanted to race with World of Outlaws, right? So that was my ultimate goal. I got to do that for 3 years, okay? When I got out on the road, I understood why the World of Outlaws was so special. The history, the way that the camaraderie between the people, and that's even changed from even back in the old days. But like, I was fortunate. Like, I'm the type of person that, like, I don't really give a crap if the orange team doesn't like the blue team. Like, when we're out on the road, when we're at the track, that's one thing. But when we're out on the road, like, I'm the type, like, we're still gonna be, like, we're racers. We're still gonna be buddies if you need help. And like, so that first year or two, we traveled a lot with Jason Sides, and I tell you all of that because it made me feel like I was a part of something that's part of history. I don't think that you can ever, I don't think High Limit will ever, within the next 5 or 10 years, depending on what happens, I don't think they'll ever get to that level. They can't because of history, right? And I'm a history guy. Now, that being said, I feel like that, let me back up. The other thing about the World of Outlaws that the people don't know is once you've sacrificed and you've been on the road, you're always an outlaw. I love that about how they treated me. I love that how I've been treated by the people that are there, that are, some of them are not retired. We've lost a couple. But when I go to outlaw race, I'm still an outlaw. You'll always be an outlaw. And Brian Carter told me that at the banquet when not unfortunately, I was ready to be done. We couldn't financially meet him, whatever. But so I tell you all that to get to the rest of the story. When the High Limit thing started, I didn't really agree, and here's why. It wasn't supposed to be something that was in direct competition against the World of Outlaws. It was going to be something that would give racers an opportunity from a different angle, midweek series, things like that, and it rapidly changed. And then it dissolved a series that I've been involved with heavily, the All-Star Circuit of Champions, from 98 till present day, right? Well, when they ceased to operate last year. So I was a little hurt and pissed at that time. Now, that being said, I own my own team, and I see things that they were trying to do, and I've watched them grow it. And even though I haven't got to run a lot of high limit races, I see that they have brought more money to the sport. They have also caused other organizations, whether they want to admit it or not, to increase payouts and support money and things like that. That's something that needs to happen. It needs to continue to grow if they're going to have teams with to be able to afford to keep racing. I mean, it's that way throughout history. So, like, it's nothing really any different, but the levels of the increase right now, like tires. I mean, less than a few years ago, we were $180 a tire, then $240, and now we're up over 300, and some were headed for $400 a tire. I can't maintain that kind of increase without help on the other end of it. High Limit has created an atmosphere and has helped in that way. They appear to be doing more and more things right. The Outlaws and High Limit seem to be quietly behind the scenes working together a little bit better, which that's good for our sport. Initially I did not agree, mostly because I felt like that they were kicking history right in the sack, with closing down the All-Stars and everything else. And then all of a sudden, basically, it's in direct competition with the World of Outlaws. Now, I understand more of it. And, I'm also at a different point in my career where really doesn't mean a lot if I say or complain too much about it, right? Like, not that I don't want to be involved, but like I'm not looking at 20 more years or 30 more years of competing with the World of Outlaws or High Limit. Some of these younger guys, if they see things, they need to be paying attention and they need to try to help influence it and communicate. I feel like the one thing that our sport maybe doesn't do very well is, the theory that a racer shouldn't influence something going on with the promoters and vice versa, because really we all need each other to survive and make money and make this thing work, and we really probably don't all do a very good job at it, from racers communicating with individual weekly track promoters to all-stars to outlaws to high limits. We probably don't do a very good job of working harder to promote, to get people in the stands, to get people to invest in the sport they love, like, to show partners a return on investment and to not step on each other's feet. I mean, I know that's one thing that I felt like that I preached to you, Tim, like when we've talked, like, we got 1 million people that go after the same sponsors. Well, how about you use that and you go to another trucking company that's down the road and put in the effort to try to get your foot in the door and work. And that even goes to the tracks and the series and everybody else. I don't feel like we do a very good job of that. I don't know how you fix that. By no means do I, but on the outside looking in and having my own team and racing and dealing with promoters and dealing with sponsors and trying to keep everybody happy and going to events and being like, man, nobody's showing up or whatever. And there again, back to the original question, that's some of the things that I think High Limit's doing very well. I mean, they really have a lot of fan interaction. They do a lot of really cool stuff that, I mean, even when I initially didn't like them, I was like, that's a pretty good idea. Like, that's good for our sport. And, and now that,
fresh thoughts, new blood in the series, fresh ideas, fresh thoughts.
Well, we're in the entertainment industry, right? And there's a lot of things that, one, people have a little less money for their entertainment, so they're a little bit more picky and choosy. So, they may not go to a race every week. So we got to make sure that we figure out how to get them there and get different fans there and grow. And some of that is like you said, fresh thoughts, new ideas. There's some of it that probably will work, some of it that won't. But like I'll give High Limit a ton of credit in that area. Like they're thinking outside the box and they're doing a good job. And the Outlaws, they're the World of Outlaws. Like you hear Johnny Gibson's voice, you're listening to the World of Outlaws. You go to an outlaw race and you see the fanfare, and they've always done a pretty damn good job. But like to see the new views and new ideas that some of the High Limits are doing, I'm impressed, and I'm glad to see that it's headed a little different direction. I know there's still competition, and I'm sure there's things that we see and don't see that we may not understand, but that's just part of business too. That doing your own business, right? Like, we've talked about that, Tim, like, whether it's your restaurant or the one down the road, like you try to work together a little bit and but you also learn what to do the opposite of, or however to make it work. And I feel like we could do a better job of that. And once again, like another plug, like, it's pretty awesome that High Limit allowed Rich Farmer to start the All-Stars back up. I mean, there's things about that's been a rough start to the first year, but damn it. Like I tell Rich, I'm like, I may not always agree with you, Rich, and that some of the things that you do are your views, but I don't want your job, so thank you for giving us an opportunity. And you're taking, there's been times that, man, things haven't been smooth, and it's not really been, some of it's just been inexperience, and some of it's been just circumstances, right? But like I'm thankful that the people that are Rich and the people that are running the All-Stars and the people that have gotten involved, that they started something back up that means a lot to a lot of people, and a lot of people in the sport of sprint car racing.
Me included.
Yeah, and hopefully that grows and gets better. Obviously a lot of things are up and down, and you never know what's going to happen, but pretty cool to have that brought back, and to have basically we have a lot of good series. I mean, Aaron Fry with the Fast Series regionally does a pretty good job. There's series across the country that do a pretty good job. And without those series, people really don't understand. And even some of the promoters don't understand, like, man, we need them. I mean, Dwayne Hancock, what he does with AFCS in our backyard and raising money for just the local series that people run weekly. Man, if we didn't have that, just the influx of a little extra money and the fanfare and everything, and people coming to the races and buying like all of that matters. And some of it's competitive, but some of it's pretty damn cool what everybody's doing.
So, kind of piggybacking off of Tim's question a little bit, what are your thoughts on the Joker's jackpot being broadcast live on FS1 next week?
Well, well, obviously, anything being broadcast live on a national network is pretty awesome, right? Like, I feel like that brings more eyes to our sport, and shoot, maybe. Well, right now, my plan is I don't even know if I'm going to be there for those first few races because the Kings Royal means so much to me, and my motor program isn't all that good. Nothing to do with any other reason than that, right? But it makes me want to be there a little more. It makes me have engines on engine stands right now, trying to figure out if I can make sure that I got my bases covered for if I had an issue to be at the Kings Royal on Saturday. Now, the fact that it's live on TV, it's pretty awesome. I mean, to have Eldora Speedway, which is in BFE, Ohio, on national television for a sprint car race, and being a fan and a competitor and everything else, it just makes me smile. It's awesome, right? And hopefully it brings a lot more eyes to our sport. And in my world right now, I'm thinking, man, what if somebody's seen my little family team and we could do something, or somebody else's team, and they could do something, and some guy comes up and says they want to be involved. And, it happened because of something like that. Like, that happens. It really does happen. When you're standing in the pits, that's why I always, have I ever lost my mind in the pits? Yeah, but, like, I try to keep my demeanor up in the front of the trailer if I'm not happy, because you never know who's standing outside. And, whether it's a kid walking up that put in a car that may just be a fan like I was when I was a little kid, or somebody that might want to be involved. TV, social media, things like that. That is the good things that those kind of things do for our sport. And even though I'm not as hip and trendy with all that crap, right? Like, I'm very fortunate to have Camilla Jesko, a great friend of mine, and has helped with the Hercules deal and all that, and all the way through my team, even to this day. She helps me take care of all that stuff and helps me understand, like, hey, you bullheaded, stubborn, old son of a gun, you need to do this. You need to pay attention to this, and I have, and I see enough that how these interviews on podcasts help our sport and teams like mine and big teams too. So I'm super excited about it being televised live. If you can't tell, I mean, it's awesome. And hopefully it brings more everything to our sport, because it deserves it.
Well, I'm going to say something there that you didn't say, because I don't know if you didn't think of it. I doubt you didn't think of it. Maybe you're just too humble. But if somebody wants to jump on your race car, another selling point, not only in front of 25, 30,000 people at the racetrack, now we can sell them on, you're going to be on FS1 national TV. So if somebody wants to jump aboard Greg's race car next week, not only is it advertising in front of 30,000 at the track and Flow, Dirt Vision, whatever, you're on FS1. It literally could be millions of people watching this. So I'm going to say that for you, Greg, because you have to be at that race. Greg Wilson has to be at Eldora that week. There's no, that's just not the same, bud. You know that.
Yeah, I know that, but like, sometimes you get grounded a little bit.
I know.
Right? Like this sport will
I know.
do that.
I know.
And as we talked privately when we talked about coming on here, some of our discussions were, like I told you, I've learned valuable lessons from other people, and I'm not going to put myself in a position to lose my house because of a race car, right? And do dumb things. So, for me, not for keep in mind, as anybody that's listening to this, the reasons for me, and there again, I'm not whining. There's a lot of other teams that are worse off or in the same position that I am in, right? But like, I have to pick and choose my battles. If we get through this weekend and I can put a little money in the bank and get an engine kind of make sure that, because I really want to be there Saturday. Okay, like, I don't know how many Kings Royals I get to go to the rest of my career, but I know I get to go this year, and I'm going to make sure that, and is FS1 important to me? Yeah. But the Kings Royal is the race that I've dreamed about winning my whole life, and nothing's ever going to change that, right? So I guess that's the easiest explanation that I can give. I'm hoping that through the end of this week and next week, that I can get some things in line and be there. And if there is anybody else that wants to contribute and have their name on, I got the whole side of the car open for Kings Royal Week, and we are open to any discussion for anything at any level, because it's all black. I mean, I'd be proud to put something on there and work hard. We will work our ass off to show you return on our investment. I feel like that's one thing my team and the people that are involved with me have always taken pride in, is that, part of being involved in a race team should be, at this point where racing is at today, and a sponsor or somebody that wants to be a partner and involved at any level, there should be some kind of return on their investment. I believe that. I know for my own business there has to be, or I can't feed my kids. So if there's anybody out there listening, get in touch with me, and we'll get you on FS1, and we'll definitely be at the Kings Royal on Saturday.
Awesome. So Josh mentioned earlier we have some fan questions. So first one from Kurt Wilson. Not sure if you know Kurt, if you're related to Kurt, but this is Kurt's question. There are so many crown jewel races, which there seems like there are nowadays. What is something unique about this experience, the track, the race, that makes it different and or memorable?
Well, one, the history. It's been going on for a long time now, so the history always trumps a lot of other crown jewel races. Along with that, what Earl Baldus initiated with sitting in a king's chair, being crowned, being king for a year. Obviously, from the racer standpoint, that is huge. Like, as it said sometimes, like the money's great. Like for me, it would change a lot of things, but I'd give anything to sit in that chair and carry that trophy home. And right. Be a king, to have that scepter and that freaking king crown sitting in my trophy room, like that would be, the money was irrelevant. Now, the other thing that makes it is it's Eldora. And over the last, 15 or 20 years, the amount of fans that come out, I love the race fans. Like I always have. I've always tried to mention how appreciative I am. You don't have to be a Wilson fan. You don't have to like me, but thanks for being a fan. I mean, if in that race in particular, fans get rowdy. They make it electric. I mean, like when you're there, you're at something special. On Saturday night at the Kings Royal, and you look up and there are people everywhere, and they do the national anthem and the people start going crazy, and they're like, and you hear when they line up and people are yelling at the people they don't like, and you can hear it. Like, there's not a lot of races that we do that are like that. That's, to me, what makes that place special. And hey, who wouldn't want to be at Eldora on a Saturday eating a pizza burger from King Cole Meats, Ricky Peterson's sponsor, and Tim Denny's buddies, huh? Like, who wouldn't want to be having a cold beer and a pizza burger Saturday night at the Kings Royal, getting rowdy with all them fans, watching their favorite drivers race to sit in that chair? Like, it just doesn't get any better.
Gives me goosebumps.
Tim said it. I was thinking it. You mentioned the crown. You mentioned the throne, the scepter. And when you're talking about that, I'm not a driver. I will never be able to properly sit on that throne. But just hearing you talk about it, It gives me chills as a fan. And then you talk about Eldora, and you talk about Saturday night, and you talk about all the fans, and the anthem. And when the anthem's over, it's go time. It just, we're not far off, boys, and I can't tell you how pumped I am to get to Eldora. For the
This is lighting my fire tonight, Josh. So I was kind of like I told you earlier, but when we were setting this up, like I'm day by day, I got to get through work and see what's going on. This got me ready to roll, man. I'm pumped. So I appreciate you letting me come on, man, because this is me and Greg. Like, this is Eldora is our place, no matter what. We're Ohio boys. I grew up 15 minutes from Eldora. Like, the King's Royal is it. It don't matter if it pays $10, $10 million. It does not matter. The King's Royal is it. So,
Well,
you talk
let's
about
be
King's
fair.
Royal, you talk about Eldora. Let me just tell you, there was one time that I was there, and it was before they extended it to 4 days, and they had a band in turn 4 on the concrete.
I'm sure I was up there.
But there was nothing but one light on at the track, and it was on the media center. So you could sit in the grandstands, and nobody's around. It's almost completely dark except for that one light, and it's enough light to let you see the track. It's a mecca.
There's 2 places in my life I've been to that when you walk in, I can't explain it. One, I'm a huge Cubs fan, so the first time I went to Wrigley Field was like, the only way I can explain it is if you watch the movie Rudy, and the first time he takes his dad to a Notre Dame game, that was me walking up there like crying. And Eldora is one of those places, man, I'm from Fort Laramie, so you have to take North Star Fort Laramie Road. You come over the hill, and all you see is campers and people and the atmosphere and young idiot guys like me and my buddies on top of our camper with our shirts off, waving Greg Wilson into the pitch. I'm ready to go, boys.
Well, the funny story is, and I'm going to tell it, is how I met Tim was he was a huge Hewitt fan. Okay. And
yeah, Jack Hewitt is my god.
I drove
he
for
is
him,
it.
and Tim thought at that time that I took Hewitt's ride, right? Which really isn't true, but because one, I wouldn't want to get my ass.
Didn't matter if it was true.
Yeah, I didn't. But in Tim's eyes, it was true. But in my world, I wasn't wanting to get my ass whipped by Jack Hewitt anyway, right? So, anyways, I was, when I took over, and I was lucky enough to drive for my uncle, which was always my dream. I don't know when it was, but years later, Tim come down, and him and his buddies come down, and I'd always stay after the races, and he had a couple drinks, and he sat on the back of my trailer, and we're bull crapping, and he's like, "You're the son of a gun that took Hewitt's ride," and blah blah blah, and he's giving, he's on me, right? Well, most people don't know this, but like I'm very, like, I am very sarcastic, but like, you don't know if I'm pissed at you or not until you kind of know me, right? And so I start giving it back, and he's looking at me, and I start smiling, and I gave him a nickname because he was sloshing his thing around, and he's still in my phone with that nickname. Now, I'm not going to let him tell you. I won't say the nickname, but he can. But
we'll keep that one. We'll keep that one out.
So then from then on, we're buddies, right? And all of his buddies are now my buddies. And to spill on even further, you never know what's gonna happen. And one year they wanted to have a sticker on my race car, and for the King's Royal. And they come up, and they went to the Doty race, I think it was, and they showed up at my shop.
Yep.
And they brought the sticker.
When Doty was at Lima.
Yes, it was. You actually drove up.
Yeah,
I think it was. And all their buddies come up and come to the shop and hung out for a little bit as we're getting ready for the Royal. But here's the kicker to the whole story. This is the part that's really funny. So what makes this whole story really, really cool is they're here to give me my sponsorship and give me my stickers. And I have this really awesome race fan, Finley PD, buddy of mine that stops out once in a while. Well, he's on duty. Well, he sees all these vehicles here. Well, he's a race fan. He's getting ready to go to the King's Royal. He stops. Well, I catch him outside. And I'm like, "Hey, dude, we got to mess with these guys. They're rowdy. They've been partying. They're coming up here and they're helping me, but they're all going back to Eldora. And you got to," well, by the time it was done, by the time my buddy Joe got done with them, they were fully convinced that they were going to jail because Joe had them convinced that their camper come up stolen, and they had no way to talk themselves out of it. And he was taking them to jail. I mean, like, it went on. He played it better than anybody could have played it. And now they're all friends, right? Like, Joe is a friend of theirs, and they all have beers together at the King Royal every year. And that's the kind of stories that come out of Eldora Speedway and the King's Royal and really just racing in general. I've met some really, really people that I consider friends through racing, and Tim happens to be one of them. And, and all of his buddies, they all bring their kids down every year, and now they're all getting bigger, and they're bringing more. It's awesome. It's really cool.
Oh man, the stories that come from Eldora, they are just some you cannot tell.
Yeah.
So Todd Nunez would ask, who is one legendary driver you wish you could have raced against at Eldora, and why?
Oh, man. I've been fortunate to race against the guys that I watched growing up. I still, I'm thinking about this as I'm telling you this, but like, I still, I become great friends with Craig Kinzer, and anytime I'm even at the over at their house, or whenever I see Steve, and Steve comes over and talks to me, my kids like, you're like a little fangirl, like, and I'm like, hey, he's the king. Why? You guys have no idea. Like, he's the man. Like, you guys don't know. Like, I know, I watched. And so when I got a race at Eldora with him, and like, that was super special. So that's why I guess probably there would be 2 or 3 guys, just because I mean, I loved Indy. I think it'd have been cool to race against guys like Johnny Rutherford, Mario Andretti, and AJ Foyt. Those 3 stick in my mind. I mean, there's probably somebody that I'm not really thinking of. If we're talking sprint car race at Eldora, but like, if we're talking racing at Eldora, like, it would have been like, I really like late models. I wish I would have drove a late model sometimes. Like, I'm a sprint car guy, don't get me wrong, but like, I've always, like, that was my dad had stock cars and late models, and growing up, like, that's what I kind of watched too. And like, it'd been awesome to race with like Donnie Moran and Jeff Purvis, and guys that I, kind of from the outside, not doing what I do, watched. I think that would be awesome. I mean, to race in a late model against Jack Hewitt. I was fortunate I got to race with Hewitt, but like, to do something different, to race against Tony Stewart in a late model, or something different. I've been very fortunate because of the longevity of my career, that I've got to race with a lot of legends of our sport anyway. Like, I got to race with Steve Kinzer and Donnie Schatz and Sammy Swindell, and I really didn't get a race with Wolfgang. That would be awesome. Jan Opperman.
That'd be cool.
I'm giving you a lot of names because I really can't pinpoint any. Just to say that guy. But those are some of the names. I feel like if you said, hey, could you pick? It would have to be like I said, the 3. Like, to me, like, I'd love to race against Johnny Rutherford and Mario Andretti and AJ Foyt. I mean, they're some of the legends at Indy, and like, I don't know as if I ever really wanted to race at Indy. I mean, those guys people think sprint car racing is crazy, but like, when you go over and watch Indy, and now they're going 240, 250, and cars that can do it. Yeah. But like, even going 180 back in the day, and heading down into turn 1 and basically just seeing a wall, and you're going directly back the other way. I mean, those guys, the guys that raced with no roll cages, they were the men of sprint car racing. I mean, I'm thankful for all the safety innovations and everything else. Don't get me wrong, but like, those guys had bowls that wouldn't fit in 55-gallon drums. I mean, there's sayings that, like, like Hod, like, his wouldn't fit in a 5-gallon bucket. Well, those guys that ran Eldora back in the day with no roll cage, their balls wouldn't fit in a 55-gallon drum. That would be what I would say would be just an unbelievable experience.
And the seats. Have you ever went back and looked at the seats they had in those things?
They were so tough.
God.
They were so. I think.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how any of them walk.
I laugh because, like, as racers, like, there again, when I started, I run manual steering. I was literally joking the other night, like, I'm looking around the pits at Latrobe, and, like, this is a kind of a big place, and kind of like, it was, I don't want to say it was hard on you, but it was hard on you a little bit, and because of speeds, excuse me, and I think, man, I wonder if any of these guys, these younger guys, could even handle a car with manual steering, and if there only could have been one or two in the pits, right? That could have even drove, like, but I think about it, and, like, there again, it's generational, right? So, like, yeah, those guys were really tough, but they were going a little slower. They didn't have 960 horsepower like we do now. So, like, things change in proportion, and like, I try to put that in perspective, right? The guys different that are racing different today, like, the cars are a lot closer. The competition level is a lot closer. It used to be when I started, you'd have 5 to 10 cars that could win, and then maybe another 5 that could win on a night, and then 5 cars that were kind of just there. Damn, you go to a race now, there's 50 cars that can win. If there's 53 cars there's 53 of them that probably could win, just to give, depending on the night. Now, obviously, the teams of the cream rises to the top, the big teams, the so on and so forth. The really good drivers, really good teams, the really good mechanics, they rise to the top still. But it just seemed to me like back in the day that, generational change. I guess that's my point to it. Things are different, but damn, the seats, the freaking no roll cages, the freaking
Crazy.
the skinny tires, the running 100 laps. I mean, some of the normal features were 100 laps, like a Silver Crown race. I mean, like, you say most times if you said we were going to have a 50 lap race today, everybody would just absolutely flip out. Like, I mean, hell, the other night at Latrobe, they were going to have a 35 lap feature. Now, me, from the mechanic side, I'm like, and the owner side, I was like, really? This place is big. We're going to do 35 laps on that? Like, me, in my mind, I'm wanting the 35 laps because I usually can get better at the end of the race. But from the owner's side, there's 15 cars there. Everybody's going to get strung out. It's basically going to be a dyno session, right? But if you'd have said, we're going to have a 50-lap feature, shit, them people, we would have all had a freaking heart attack. And that's what they did every night. Like, that's what they did,
Crazy.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Pretty awesome, the sport we like and love, right? Yeah.
So
Cool.
this is one we've talked about a little bit. How do I say this? What kind of tips, advice, and it doesn't have to be a younger guy. It could be an older guy that's just making his first appearance at the King's Royal, but first time race driver at the King's Royal. What do you tell them?
Well, I feel like that this is why Eldora fits me. I feel like Eldora, you have to race patiently aggressive, if that makes any sense. So there's so many things because of the speed and because of the shape of the track that you can be aggressive, but you also have to be patient, because if you try to force anything at Eldora, you'll get yourself into trouble. And I don't care if it's qualifying or in traffic or out leading. If you try to do anything, the only guy that I've ever seen run Eldora and literally look out of control for 40 laps was Hod. But he was the only one that I've ever been able to see in my career, or since I've followed and been old enough to follow sprint car racing. But for most people, and especially with today's race cars and the way that, like I said, technology, the way the engines run, if I look at a new guy, I'd be like, just try to stay calm. I know you won't, because it's Eldora, but this isn't a place that you can be overly aggressive, or you're going to go down into turn 1 and first lap of the heat race, and we're going to be picking you up out of turn 2. Like, you have to be patiently aggressive. Like, you got to make your moves when you can make them, but you also, I don't want to say you can wait, but you got to wait a little. There's times you got to wait, because if not, you'll get passed by 3, because you made the wrong move. It's a chess game. It's a high-speed chess game there. And I guess that would be the advice how I would word it, and say to a guy that was coming into his first trip to Eldora or coming in for the King's Royal.
Great answer. And my question coming up next, we actually really covered this well, I think, earlier. So I'm going to let Tim go ahead with his.
All right. This is one I did want to ask you because I don't know if me and you have ever talked about this, and I brought it up to Josh because I was getting excited. Um, so obviously, when there's 25,000, 30,000 people there now, it's sold out damn near or whatever. Maybe it is sold out. Explain to me, because 25,000, 30,000 people, I don't think, to put that in perspective, that's way more people than an NBA game, way more people than a National Hockey League game. It's probably an average, way above average attendance for a Major League Baseball game. What the hell does that feel like when you're coming around and Johnny's telling you guys or your race director's telling you, all right, boys, let's go 4 wide, and you look up and there's fireworks and there's flames and there's 30,000 people with their cell phone lights on? Like, explain to me, how does that feel? How in the world could I ever get that feeling?
Man, I don't know. Hell, as Hamp would say, probably at his age, 220-year-olds or something, you know? That'd be the only thing I could think of. I mean, I remember Hamp telling me that one time. He said, hell, 220-year-olds in a glass of water, I'd be dead. Well, that's about what it feels like. That's about what it feels like, I guess. I mean, you know,
I've never had either, so
yeah, I haven't either, but like, I can only imagine, I guess. I mean,
yeah.
But you know, there
Shit.
really is no feeling. I mean, it's it for somebody like me, I use comparisons to myself because I always try to put myself in other people's shoes, and I try to think that through. And like this situation, I just think about myself and how much I've dreamed of being there, and like how much, you know, basically saying like, you know, if you want to be there to a young person or somebody that wants to drive sprint cars, then go do it, right? But that feeling that I get when I go to the Kings Royal is the same feeling I got the first time I strapped into the race car, a sprint car. Like, holy shit, this is the most amazing thing ever. And that's what it feels like at the Kings. Like, if you're fortunate enough to make the Kings Royal and you're lined up 4 wide, if you don't have a smile, like I can literally tell you the last Kings Royal that I made, I had the biggest smile on my face rolling around there 4 wide. I was not nervous whatsoever. I had the biggest smile on my face. I literally had to freaking open my shield and wipe the tears out of the corners of my eye. And I am not lying to you, because that race means that much to me, and to be a part of something that special and have all those fans there watching all of us guys go down there to put on a show for them at the greatest place in the world. It doesn't get any better than that. Like, in my world, it doesn't get any better than that. Like, and if people watched me or asked me or have heard my interviews, there's one thing that's never wavered with me. Like, the Kings Royal and that atmosphere and the people and being at Eldora. And I mean, it's why I wanted to drive a sprint car. Like, when I went there and I see Hod win, my favorite driver that used to drive for my uncle, and like, I want to drive for Bob Hampshire, and I want to try to win a Kings Royal. Like, that's from the time I was a little kid. That's all I've ever wanted to do, and to this day, like, you know, my racing and my views and my want to for certain things are different. Like, I don't need to run 100 races to be happy or whatever, but damn, if I could still win that Kings Royal, that would be pretty awesome. You know, like,
Yeah.
that's it. In my world, you know, Knoxville's amazing, but I didn't grow up like Knoxville. You know, Knoxville was a big deal, and it has been probably obviously bigger than the Kings Royal, right? But like, in my world, I'm from Ohio. I live in a bunch of I live out in the country in between. Benton Ridge is the tiniest little town you ever seen in Ohio, right? And that's what Eldora is about. And you know, Eldora is about everything that kid from Benton Ridge wanted to be about. And that's why I want to win the Kings Royal, and that's why it's so special. And that's why when you're rolling around there, lining up. That hell, the only thing close to it's 220 euros and a cold glass of water. I mean, shit. It's if it don't give you, if you know, it's you're the drive to want to sit in that king chair. I mean, like, golly, I don't, even when I'm done driving, like, hell, if I was going to be a part of something, I want to be on the car that's going to win the King's Royal, right? Like, that's probably going to be a goal of mine. Like, hell or high water, if I have to kick the shit out of the driver and wear the crown because I helped work on it, that's what's going to happen. I mean, that's how much it means to me personally. Anyway, I don't know if that explains it very well to what people,
Oh, yeah.
what other drivers will feel. But I know that's what it means to me.
Well, you can sign me up to be on the track Sunday morning when the sun's coming up because Greg Wilson won the King's Royal.
Shit, we're gonna be there probably till Monday morning. The way I have it figured.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
Yeah.
with I won't want to leave. I mean, I want to soak in every single moment. Which anybody should. Like, if a race should mean, every race should mean something to you. But when you get at that level of a race, and if you're fortunate enough to win it, I feel like if you truly love what you do and you love driving a sprint car, you should have that same emotion. If you don't, I'm probably not a fan of you. And maybe that's wrong. I don't know. If you can't tell, I love what I do. Even as long as I've done it, even as I get later in my career and the frustrations and, things change and, stuff changes and competitiveness changes and all that. Like, I still love being a part of the King's Royal, like, and Eldora Speedway in general. Like, when I roll into that place, like, my family literally would tell you, if they were on this interview and I said, where is my happy place? There would be no hesitation and no doubt what the answer would be from all three of them. And I guarantee you, if I brought them out here right now and got on here, they would say Eldora Speedway. I can promise you. Because that's how badass that place is.
That is a fact. All right. We're getting close to the end here, Greg. Do you have any tips for fans attending their first King's Royal?
One, if you get a pit pass, absolutely one thing that you have to do is go down and stand up against the fence into the entry of corner number 1 or corner number 3 and look at the cars coming at you, and then watch them. If you can keep up with them, go by you. And the sense of speed and what a driver has to do in the car at that place, I feel like will usually that gets. I mean, everybody that I've ever had go to Eldora for the first time and I tell them to do that, they immediately come back to my trailer and they're like, this is unbelievable. This is unreal. How do you guys do that? That would be probably the one thing. And, just make sure you take in all the atmosphere. The King's Royal is a one-of-a-kind race these days, and there's a lot going on. Some of it's probably kid-friendly. Some of it's probably not. But make sure you take it all in. I mean, it's a special event. And I'm the type of person that I feel like you should experience it all. As a racer and as a fan, definitely go down into turn 1 or turn 3. If you can get down to the infield and into the pits, it's an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have a favorite track food there at Eldora?
Well, Tim and I obviously talked about that. I really I like the pizza burgers. You can't find another one. Anywhere else you go to the little mom and pop's places around here that have pizza burgers still to this day. A lot of places don't even have them. They're not like Eldora's. My daughters are huge fans of the spicy cheese balls. And
Oh, yeah.
they've actually got pretty good spicy chicken wings.
Yeah.
But probably those 3 things. I mean, that's one thing that, when you think about Eldora and even way back in the day, I think Earl, where Earl was a great promoter, and I don't, I feel like some places these days probably don't do a very good job of promoting from from all avenues. But one thing that he always made sure of, that his food was pretty good and it was fairly, pretty fair priced. You go to Eldora Speedway and the food's still really fair priced, and it's usually whatever you get's pretty good. I feel like that's one of the special parts about Eldora. I mean, I can still afford to feed my kids when we go there, right? And the food's pretty damn good. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right, Greg Wilson, where can everybody follow you on social media, and do you have merchandise available?
I don't have much for merchandise right now. The money that should be going for the T-shirts that we had a fellow working on is now tied up in race car engines. So T-shirts we have a few shirts from last year left. We really don't have much. I don't even know what the social media thing is. You can find us on X, and I do take care of that, which I think it's Greg Wilson W20 maybe, or something like that. And then we're on Facebook too, and I think that's Greg Wilson Racing or Greg Wilson W20 as well. I apologize, like I'm just not. I need to do better at that. Thank goodness for Camilla. She helps a lot with that. But like it's great because my mom don't get to go to a lot of races because she can't breathe the dirt in, right? So luckily, between the social media avenues and Camilla keeping her, like I'm very appreciative that we have those social media avenues. So yeah, you can follow me on either one of those. If anybody wants to get a hold of me for whatever reason, just direct message me on X. I do all that. If you message through Facebook or have any questions or whatever, Camilla will get all that to me, and usually I get a hold of the people depending on what it's about. Yeah, follow us. Yeah, follow us and see what we're up to.
Before my phone goes dead, I want to take you back to 2019.
That's freaking cool. That's awesome.
That was Kings Royal 2019. Last thing here before we go, Greg, sponsors that you would like to thank.
Well, I mean, I've been very fortunate to have very loyal and long-term partners. Like I do take pride in that. Obviously, Ohio Logistics has been a huge part of my career since 2006. Even when Verl Warnemont and All Star Plumbing had owned our team, and then since we've taken it over, he's stayed involved, and the company has stayed involved. I know all the employees. Like it's a wonderful company. If you need any warehousing or trucking, you get a hold of me, and I'll hook you up with the people at Ohio Logistics, and we'll get it networked and make something happen. DNC Hydraulics, the Conway family, Dave, Carolyn, Cody, Nick, Kelsey, the whole family. They've made us a part of their family. Just a great group, and they've grown and expanded. There again, I don't care what kind of level of hydraulic cylinder or hydraulic application that you need, they got you covered. I mean, they can do cylinders from that you can walk inside of them, down to tiny little cylinders that are on a floor jack. They are amazing at what they do. Miller Customs, like I said, they got involved this year. They do custom hot rods. They will work on any older hot rod car. They're here in Findlay. They literally truck cars from Florida to Arizona for people and work on them. They do an amazing job. Build custom hot rods from the ground up. The work that they do, I probably need to go down and do a video and have Camilla help me and put it out there, because it's literally a mile from my shop, and the stuff they do is just unreal. And then we're still involved with Hercules Tires. We roll everywhere we roll, whether it's our passenger cars or, we roll on Hercules, and we put a lot of people on Hercules, a lot of race fans. If you want to get Hercules back on the side of my race car, anybody on social media, you go let them know that they need to get back involved with Greg Wilson Racing, and you guys buy tires because of it. I appreciate everybody that it has throughout the years and still continue to support the brand, but we need to get them back involved. I mean, they're not completely out of it yet, and we hope that we can get them back in here and get them back on the car. And those those are the majors. Obviously, I have a lot of product people. Maxim Chassis, BRS Shocks. I'm only going to hit on a couple of them. Simpson. I've been involved with Simpson probably as long as anybody. Simpson race products, and their safety equipment's awesome. I said Maxim. Kistler Engines. Paul has always been involved throughout my career at some level, on different levels, at different times, and he's always welcomed me back when I was dumb and left. So there's just so many good people. I know I'm going to forget somebody and probably catch some shit over it. Just very, very fortunate to have a lot of people that have helped me. A lot of people that have handed me money for a tire. Why I'm on here, I haven't went on social media, and I just thought of it yesterday. During Ohio Speed Week, Shelly Farmer, the Hoppus family, and they all got packages around for the teams that did it the whole week. And then we had a friend of mine, I don't even know, through racing or around home, AJ Crispin, I think is his name. He came and gave a guy an envelope, and it was full of gift cards for supper. Another fella come up at Atomic. I don't even know the gentleman's name. He handed us a gift card for Applebee's. Those kind of things with a family-owned team mean so much. And I know it meant a lot to me, and I want to say thank you to them. But stuff like that goes a long, long way. There's and I've been fortunate to have a lot of people throughout the years do things like that, just like Tim and his buddies. People think at times like, well, that, it ain't much. But, there's times when people were in need, no matter whether it's in racing or just need a meal. I don't know how many times that I've bought a veteran a breakfast, even when I probably shouldn't have, because I probably shouldn't have really spent the money, because it's the right thing to do, right? And a lot of people do really cool things, and especially in our sport. And not only for my sponsors, but to all the fans that have done stuff like that, and all the people that have truly helped me race for 33 years. Thank you, because I've got to do exactly what I've wanted to do, and most people in life don't get to do that. And now I get to do it with my wife and kids, and damn, I want to do it as long as I can and be competitive. And so anybody that helps make that happen, has made it happen, thank you.
I couldn't have said it any better. Tim, any parting words before we wrap this one up?
No, just obviously thank you, Josh. This was awesome. Me and Greg having the conversations over 20 years about everything, and just getting to see this was a tiny snippet of me and Greg's relationship, but everybody needs to know a couple things real quick about Greg, and I'll keep this real quick and short. The most generous person you'll ever meet. Everything's not about money. I'm talking about with his time, with his giving a shit about people. It isn't fake. I can call or text that man anytime, and he answers. So, thank you, buddy.
You're welcome. Thank you for being my friend, man. And thanks for having me on here. I as you, like, for me, as I get, I'm not foolish. I know I'm getting closer to the end of my career, right? But like, to be asked to be on things and to be a part of it, sometimes it tends to mean a little bit more. And to have this and to be on here for damn near a couple hours, I've truly enjoyed this. I can't always say that I enjoy taking time out of my day to do things like this, but I have truly enjoyed this, and thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Who the hell would ever thought this 20 years ago, Greg?
Yeah, when your drunk ass was sitting on the back of my tailgate giving me shit about getting Jack Hewitt fired from his ride. Yeah, who would have thought? I think that too, Tim, though, like when I see your name involved, and I think, man, and something else about Tim that some people don't know, and how passionate he is about racing. Like, sometimes he gets some crap because he gets outspoken, right? He's going to say what he's thinking. I applaud him for that. Like, I'm a little more reserved. I think it through. He tells you what he's thinking. I appreciate people like that. Like, I love Danny Dietrich on social media. What little bit I'm on there, I appreciate people like that. But let me tell you something. Tim, like me, loves racing. When he started his own business, he immediately gave back to racing. Hell, Tim tried his hand at announcing at Eldora. He wanted to be an announcer. He wanted to do that, and he thought about going down the sports. He thought about going down a sports avenue because he loves baseball and sports. Most people
I
don't know
just
that
wanted to
about
be
him.
in racing. I just wanted to do some. I wanted to be around racing and you guys, and I had no idea how to do it.
And you actually weren't too bad at that. I mean, I know whatever happened, but like he actually did a pretty damn good job. Like I was impressed, and but you know, it's cool when you meet and have friends like that, and you actually get to see people, not necessarily, you meet them through racing, but you get to know them as a person outside of, and I mean, obviously we all have our flaws, right? Like, there's times when you do not want to be around Greg Wilson whatsoever when he's pissed off at the world, and life ain't going good, but that's life for everybody, right? But you really truly find out how people are, and like I've been fortunate enough to know Tim pretty well outside of racing, and he's just, as much as he said about me, I could say the same about him, and he would help and do whatever he could do for anybody. I've watched it, I've seen it, and I know he loves racing. No different than you doing all these interviews and spending your time out of your day. And I'm sure you've met some pretty cool people, and it's a lot of that's because of the sport we love.
That's right.
Couldn't have said it any better. Gentlemen, Kings Royal Week is almost upon us. Overly jacked. I can't wait. Greg Wilson, driver of the W20 410 sprint car from Benton Ridge, Ohio. Good luck next week, and thanks for coming on.
Yes, thanks for having me, and like I said, I really appreciate getting asked to be on here, and any of the fans that get to hear this or watch this, if you want to know what it's about, or you got any questions, you're more than welcome to come down to the car, bring your kids down to the car. If it's after the races and things aren't too crazy, they're more than what we'll get them in and out of the car and let them sit in the sprint car, and let's go. Let's get this Kings Royal Week going. Hopefully the W20's parked up there on the front stretch on Saturday night, and I can promise you we're going to bring that damn house down if that ever happens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Guys,
right.
This is
You guys
Josh
take care.
and Tim, Dirt Court Jesters Podcast. We hope to see you at the track.